Good evening, whakalofalahiatu. I'm Soraya Mangala, and welcome to BCN News. Leading our news bulletin tonight, hundreds of people were at the Millennium Service yesterday morning for the National Prayer Service for the people and the Kingdom of Tonga. The service also raised more than $12,600 to start the national fundraising efforts for the Tonga Relief Fund. Here's more on our lead story with Esther Bavihi.
The National Prayer Service was led by the Deputy President of the Ecclesia Kirisiano Niue, Reverend Nevi Salatielu, in collaboration with other religious denominations on the island. In solidarity with the local Tongan community, Premier Tangilangi and his wife Tania were there along with cabinet ministers, members of the Whanoi Gepule, the High Commissioners from New Zealand and Australia, Lady Fifita Talangi, and senior officials of the public service were in the congregation. The National Prayer Service raised more than $12,600 to start the fundraising efforts, which will run for the next 2 weeks. Premier Dalton Tangilangi addressed the congregation with a brief statement.
As we gather here this morning in the Lord's house, in solidarity and unity with the Niuean Tongan community, to express our heartfelt for the people of the Kingdom of Tonga, for the devastation from the volcano eruption that have left the friendly islands in ruin. We all pray for the monarch, Prime Minister and its government, and the people of the kingdom for well-being in guiding them all to fast recovery and back to their normal lives. We pray for their inner strength, safety, security, and health protection while undergoing cleanup of their respective homes and islands. We pray for those who have lost homes and are displaced, and sending condolences to families and friends that are grieving for their loved ones. We also pray for the countries who are in support and the men and women that are working on the ground in helping the people of Tonga. Let this be a reminder to us all, living humans, that God's nature is far superior than ourselves. Lives are not easy, but we trust in the Lord. And it's for us to adapt ourselves and stand ready to face the challenge or mitigate whatever that's in front of us all. We, the people of Niue, via your government, will do what is necessary to support and help families and the people of Tonga. Just as I wrote to the Prime Minister last week, my good friend, the Honourable Silsi Savaleni, that we are not a wealthy country, but we will do our best, our very best, of what we can afford to support and assist.
It was an emotional service for the local Tongan community, as for some of them, they have not been able to speak to their families in the outer islands, as communications to the outer islands of Tonga remain an issue. The president of the Tonga community, Patelesia Vea, spoke on behalf of the Tongan community to thank the government, the congregation and the people of Niue for their prayers and support for the Kingdom of Tonga as they rebuild and recover from the devastation caused by the volcanic eruption and tsunami 2 weeks ago. Earlier this week, Patelesia Vea told BCN News that they had requested the government of Niue if the funds raised from Niue can be sent directly to their families, but the government have yet to respond to their wishes. As the congregation listened to the beautiful hymns from the Tongan community, they remembered the images from the devastation in Tonga when the volcanic eruption of Hunga Tonga Hunga Hapai caused a tsunami that affected 85% of the kingdom. The ash from the volcanic eruption covered the islands, especially for the Hapai group of islands. 3 people died on the 15th of January, a day etched into the memories of Tongans all over the world as the darkest day for the kingdom.
BCN News would like to thank Malo Media for the use of their pictures in this story. In our other top story, more than 1,000 people received their booster shots for the Pfizer vaccine, as at midday today, according to the Niue Health Department. The country remains in code blue since April 2020, and the government has updated its COVID-19 national response plans in response to the emergence of new variants such as Omicron. Here's Esther Bavehi with more.
According to the figures from the Health Department, as of 11 o'clock this morning, a total of more than 1,070 vaccine doses were administered at the Niue Health Department. 1,050 of those vaccinated were booster doses, 7 were second doses for the 12 to 15-year-old, and 13 doses were first doses for the 12 to 15-year-olds and a few adults who have taken their first doses of the Pfizer vaccine. A statement from the Health Department says that they are asking the eligible people on Niue to please come forth and get vaccinated and also to receive their booster shots. The booster injections add more protection from COVID-19 and the new variants that are continuing to emerge. The Health Department says that these are all part of the preparation for the island to prepare to move into quarantine-free travel. Although the government have not yet specified a date for a two-way quarantine-free travel, in the meantime, the island remains in code blue. This means minimal disruption to normal routine of the community because there are no COVID cases at the border or in the community. Since the beginning of this year, the government have also reduced the number of days in MIQ from 13 to 10. And this week, Cabinet also approved the reintroduction of the home quarantine option for those who meet the conditions for home quarantine. As the new variant Omicron emerged in New Zealand this week, public health expert Dr. Colin Tukuitonga told BCN News that Niue is doing a good job with its protection and response plans for COVID-19, but that he urges the government to update those plans for Omicron and for people to start practicing social distancing and not to hold large gatherings. In response to Dr. Tukuitonga's recommendations, the Director General of Health, Gayleen Tasmania, told News of the Week radio program last week that the government has already updated their plans, but at this point the island remains in code blue. Here is part of Gayleen Tasmania's response to questions on radio last Friday.
The recommendations from Dr. Colin that people in Niue start practicing social distancing and not hold large gatherings, those are valid, but in a different context. And these practices are also in our National COVID Response Plan, but they are not part of our response plan in Code Blue, and that's the stage that we are currently at. That is about preparation and readiness. So we have been at this stage of COVID alert level for over 18 months now. And because Code Blue is where there are no cases in our community, let alone at our border or MIQ facilities. So Code Blue is where we maintain minimal disruption to the community, but we acknowledge that the potential threat of COVID is within our region and of course in New Zealand. So we mitigate that threat by strengthening our border measures, and travel restrictions and mandatory quarantine have made up our key defences before vaccines were made available. The recommendations from Dr. Colin, like I said, they can be practiced by individuals on a voluntary basis, but at this stage this is not a requirement being mandated by our government. And in saying that, we are always adjusting our protocols based on conditions that exist at the time. So part of that assessment is what is going on in New Zealand. We look at that and the rest of the region. We look at the science and we determine what are the best practices to help keep Niue safe. We've been reviewing the science around Omicron, and we know that Omicron has a higher breakthrough rate on fully vaccinated people than Delta, and we do know that having a booster is very effective at reducing the breakthrough rate, and we also know that fully vaccinated people, even more so with those who have the boosters, are unlikely to get seriously ill with Omicron or require hospitalization. But the public needs to understand that Niue has been blessed so far, and we have been able to maintain our COVID-free status. That will change at some point, and it will require changes in how we live our lives. And when that happens, we will be requiring people to practice social distancing and not hold large gatherings.
The Niue Police, in their attempts to improve the security of police records and increase the efficiency of the department, this week they have rolled out a new records management system called Mark 43. Chief of Police Tim Wilson spoke to BCN News yesterday about this new system. There are many benefits of this new computer information management system. It will allow the police to maintain accurate records, maintain the security of those records, and for quick information access for investigations.
There's a lot of problems that this new RMS system solves for us. The first thing is, because of all the different types of reports they have to compile to put into the file, a lot of that's repetitive work. So in the new system, they just put it in once, and the system itself will put it on all the documentation that it needs it on. So they're not typing the same thing 6, 7, 8 times. They're just typing it one time. The other thing is it creates more secure records. So you can imagine with a paper record, it's easy for a piece of paper to get damaged, lost, something falls out of the packet, or a file just ends up missing because it got misplaced or whatever. So this system, because it's all contained in the cloud, we don't print anything off anymore. You're not going to lose those records.
One of the key benefits of the new system is that it is cloud-based and information access and retrieval will be much faster than in the past.
It is that it allows us to keep a running track of everybody who's accessed the records. We can lock records down, like if it's something that certain people shouldn't see, we can lock those records down. So for example, if we have a family member of a police officer that we're investigating for something, we can lock the system down so that police officer doesn't see the investigation we're doing into that person's family member. If it's a super secret national security type case, we can lock it down to where only I and the inspector see it, so that we can make sure that certain secrecy and that stuff is maintained. It also means that our information doesn't actually make it out into the public. So if we have an officer working on a file on their computer and they print something off, they put it on the table, and we bring somebody in to question them about a crime or take a driver's license test, they won't be able to see those records and they won't be able to see what's going on. So it solves a lot of problems for us. It streamlines the work, makes our records a lot more secure, makes it where we don't lose records, and it just adds a lot of layers of security to our police records.
The Chief of Police told BCN News that this new records management system should also assure the public that information is managed efficiently and people's personal information is protected. The other key benefit of the system is that the information that is recorded, which will be of interest to the government as well as the media.
Of a records management system is there's check boxes and stuff that the officers have to go in and fill out. If it's alcohol related, if it's domestic violence related, all those things go into that system. So the administration can go in and say, well, I want to see how many domestic violences we had in this period of time, and we can just pull that and it'll just show us the number of those events. So this will help us really for our preventative policing efforts as well, because it'll help us to keep track of what our actual problems are and what's actually going on, so we can try to address those issues before they become bigger issues. It helps for reporting stats to the media. It also helps reporting information to the government to inform them on what's actually going on and what the police are doing. So it really helps us keep track of what we're actually doing out in the community.
The police records management system is funded by the New Zealand government's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. The public notice to boil all drinking water is still in place. 2 weeks ago, as a result of water tests done in December last year, the public were informed to boil all drinking water until further notice. BCN News understands that the Directors of Health, Utilities and Environment will meet next week on the water contamination situation. According to the public health officials, they continue to work with the Department of Utilities to ascertain the source of the contamination, which could be a number of reasons, such as heavy rain, aging water, infrastructure, and the deteriorating conditions of the water reservoirs. According to the health officials, the public notice to boil all drinking water will remain in place until such time that the Departments of Health, Environment and Utilities have identified the source of contaminants and determined the source of actions to address the issues before the all clear will be given. But for now, the public should continue to boil all drinking water. The same people who work on testing the water are also working on the rollout of the boosters vaccination. Meanwhile, the sales of imported bottled waters has increased since the public notice came out 2 weeks ago. It's understood that directors of the three departments responsible for the water on the island, the Departments of Health, Utilities and Environment, will be meeting again next week to discuss the latest news on the water contamination situation. But in the meantime, the message from the government is to boil all drinking water or use water from the UV treated systems located at the schools at Baliasi, at the commercial center and the health department. Air Rarotonga is planning to run charter flights to Niue in June this year, according to the Air Raro CEO, Ewan Smith. However, they are still in planning stage and have yet to approach the Niue government officially. Here's more with Esther Pavihi.
Ewan Smith told BCN News that with the changing landscape in the travel tourism industry, the travellers from New Zealand who used to travel to Europe are now looking for alternative destinations. This presents an opportunity to explore a charter service between Niue and the Cook Islands on a 2 weeks package from New Zealand.
In the post-pandemic environment, there's going to be quite a change, we believe, in what people want in terms of travel experiences around the Pacific. We deal with a number of travel partners in New Zealand, particularly, and they're saying that the clients that they have that used to go to Europe for 2 months every year, that type of thing, are not going to go back there for a few years. And so they're looking for new destinations and new experiences. So that creates an opportunity for us that wasn't there before. So a couple of the particular projects that we're working on is it's a 2-week package out of New Zealand where one group would go to Niue, the similar size group up to 26, 28 people will come to Raro, and then the following week they will cross over on a flight direct between here and Niue. So then they continue on with a week in Raro, and the other group has a week in Niue. So that type of thing is very interesting to us. What we found here during the bubble that we had back in July, August, and even now that we're open again to New Zealand, we're finding that we're actually getting quite a different cohort from New Zealand. These are people who spend more on travel. They're not they're not budget conscious. They want to buy experiences, and they're prepared to pay reasonable money for it. They're staying in the better quality resorts, that type of thing. So it's kind of a new thing for us out of the New Zealand market because we've not experienced those types of travellers from New Zealand before.
Mr. Smith says that they have not yet approached the new government as they are still in the planning stage, but in due course they will be speaking to government officials in Niue. The cost for a seat on a charter flight from the Cook Islands to Niue return is around 950 New Zealand dollars, according to Air Rarotonga, and they are also open to offering shorter charters for local groups from the Cook Islands and from Niue as the interest is there. While optimistic of this being a long-term plan for Air Rarotonga, Ewan Smith says that although they're thinking June this year, everything is dependent on the pandemic. Flying time from between Niue and Rarotonga, it's about 2.5 hours on a 34-seat Saab aircraft. BCN News reached out to the Whalefono for comments on the charter flights from the Cook Islands, but the Premier was not able to comment on the matter at this time.
Former Director of Agriculture and former Common Role member of the Niue Legislative Assembly, Morris Hemutafatu, passed away on 14th of January and was buried at his home, Tumau, last Wednesday. He was 86 years old. Members of the Niue Legislature, government officials, family, and friends gathered at the home where he spent most of his time to farewell a former Niue scholar, politician, and man of strong faith. His eulogy was delivered by his daughter, Cherie Morris Tafatu, with other members of the family paying tribute to their father, brother, cousin, and uncle. His nephew, Justin Kamupala, the government solicitor general, paid tribute to his uncle. Premier Dalton Tangelangi spoke on behalf of the government, thanking the family for the life of service of Morris Tafatu, serving his country in the public service and in the legislature in a total public service career of 36 years. Morris Hemutafatu started working in government in 1956 until 1983 when he left the service on sabbatical during his tenure as Director of Agriculture. The following year, in 1984, he was elected to the Whānau Ekepule, where he served for 9 years in 3 consecutive terms. Mr. Tafatu's wife, Ofania Tafatu, passed away in 2016. BCN News extend our condolences to his children on the island, Stan Tafatu, Cherie Morris Tafatu, and Victoria Tafatu, and the children and grandchildren overseas. On the 10th of this month, the cost of petrol and diesel have increased to $3.02 per litre, and the cost of LPG gas also increased. In a press statement, Premier Dalton Tangelangi said that it was no longer feasible for the government to cover the increases to the cost of fuel.
The new cost means that 1 litre of petrol had increased from $2.64 to $3.02, and 1 litre of diesel has increased from $2.66 to $3.02. The cost of liquefied petroleum gas, or LPG, has also increased from $5.89 per kilogram to $6.22 per kilogram. This means that the popular household 9 kg bottle of gas will now cost $56 to fill. Jet fuel sold to Air New Zealand and other aircrafts will also increase, although those increases were not announced in the press release. Premier Dalton Tangelangi says that regrettably fuel price increases have become necessary due to global factors and trends that Niue is not immune to. In a press statement, the Premier said that the government has been subsidising the fuel costs for several months now, and it is no longer economically feasible or possible for the government to continue to bear these increases without an adjustment in retail prices. The decision of Cabinet to approve the increase in the cost of fuel is as a result of an independent expert report which determined a fixed retail price of fuel moving forward. The last review and adjustment of the fuel prices on the island was 5 years ago, in 2017.
To end our news tonight, there were no serious incidents during the traditional Takai festivities to welcome in the new year, according to the police. There were a few minor infringements involving minors, but otherwise the Takai festivities went without any trouble. Here's some footage of the 2022 Takai. And that's our first English bulletin for BCN News 2022. Do join us again next week, Tuesday, for the bulletin in Mga Hau Niue. Until then, good night, munui na e po.